Hello and welcome to Stories, the True and the Fictional. If you are new, a big warm welcome. If you are old, thank you for coming back. If you're watching
I'm
on
old,
YouTube,
man. Don't call me old. Seriously.
you're always here. That doesn't count. Yeah. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe, like, share, do all that jazz, and drop a comment. We'll give you a shout out too. But today we have a wonderful guest all the way from Florida because we are very against interviewing our own people. Joe Weaver, how are you, mate?
I'm doing good. Great. It's great to be here with you guys.
What time is it over there in your side of the world at the moment, Joe?
Right now it's 9 p.m.
Oh, that's not too bad. We're not keeping you up too late.
But except for I'm a day after you. I think you guys are a day ahead of me.
Yeah. It's Saturday over here, so I'm guessing it's 9 p.m. Friday night over there.
Correct. This is my
Excellent.
Friday night right now.
Well, thanks for taking the time out of your Friday night to come and have a chat with us.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Cool.
So,
just for the people that don't know anything about you, just want to tell us who you are. And
okay, I'm a memoir and a ghostwriter. I live here in Orlando, Florida, and I've been here for about 24 years or something. And before that, even though my family was originally from the US, before that, I used to live in the border between Paraguay and Brazil. So I actually grew up in South America and lived there most of my life and thought I would the whole life. But 24 years ago, I moved back here to Orlando and been here ever since and working here and started writing my memoirs and got interested in helping other people write theirs. And so that's been my line of activity for the last 20 years.
Excellent. Not a bad way to work for the last 20 years, is it?
Yes, it's great, and it got easier now with the pandemic. Now everybody is used to using Zoom and everything like that. Before, everybody thought you had to meet face to face, and it was like a requirement. You had to sit down together face to face, and now everybody's used to Zoom, and we Zoom with people that are living across the street. I mean, you don't have to be in Australia on the other side of the road or anything to go to Zoom.
Well, believe it or not, I didn't. I was at work during the pandemic in the office. So the first time I actually used Zoom was for these interviews. So I knew of it. A lot of different kind of but I think Zoom is the best for it. And I was saying to Jamie, imagine if this pandemic had happened 15 years earlier. What would we do? There'd be none of this technology.
Right. Exactly. Then it would have been.
So
you're
saying
that's a good point.
Exactly. No, you're saying so currently you're residing in Florida. I can tell by the background, lots of rope bridges and jungles in Florida, I can tell.
Yeah, all the mist, the jungle mist and everything there.
Well, what we're going to do, Joe, we kick this off with all of our guests. We run through a few icebreaker questions just to get to know you, get to know some of your answers, judge you harshly on your answers and that kind of thing,
All right.
So, Jamie, do you want to take the first one?
I
say as he's having a drink.
I will. If you could get rid of anything in the world, what would it be, Joe?
Golly, I hadn't given that thought. There's so many things that to get rid of. I guess belly fat. I think that would be that's something that like so many times, I want to eat something and I want to eat some more and everything, and I don't do it because of my belly fat and everything. And I think people would be a lot happier if they just didn't have to worry about that. They could just eat and
I'll agree with you right there, but I use mine to keep me warm in winter, so I'd have to invest in a few more jackets, but yeah, I'll go with that. All right. So name something that obviously from reading your book and everything, you've quite well traveled around, some of the most lovely parts in the world, but what's something that would be on your bucket list?
Yeah. One thing that was on my bucket list forever and ever, it was to visit the Grand Canyon. and I did it, and it was everything that I expected it to be. It was just so much more, and I definitely recommend it. But I guess on my bucket list, I would like to actually go down in the camp, because I just visited from on top.
Yeah.
I would like to actually go down in there, and that's a larger endeavor. Then it's not something that can be done lightly. You have to be well prepared. I have to get rid of my belly fat. So once I get the first thing done, then I can do the second one, I guess. I have to go down there, spend some time there, like a week maybe.
Well, you'd probably lose some belly fat if you went in there.
I wouldn't have to worry about it. I just go down with my belly fat, and then it'll be gone by the time I come back out, right?
All right. As moving on to living in one of the countries that produce probably the most sitcoms ever, which, in your opinion, would be the greatest one made?
Oh, that's an easy one. Ted Lasso.
Oh, yes.
Well done. That's my new favorite show.
And now I'll tell you something else. I have never watched an episode of it. Actually, I have never. I mean, this is gonna sound weird to you, but I have never watched in the last 30 years. I haven't watched a sitcom at all. I mean, it's just I really don't know why. Because when I do watch a movie or something, I usually enjoy it, but I just don't watch TV or sitcoms or anything. But I knew that both of you are big fans of that. So I said, let me suck up to the host a bit there. And
we're not the only ones doing. We're not the only ones doing research. Turns out, Ryan.
Yeah, I like it. Well, look, if you ever do decide to sit down and watch one, that's a good one to start with.
I think so. I mean, I know enough about my son was telling me about it, and everything. I like the idea and everything like that, and how he conquered, people with his heart and everything, and his motivational. Yeah, so I like. I mean, if I'm ever going to start, I'll start with that one.
Well, okay. Let me pivot off that question. So, what do you like to watch to unwind? Are you more of a documentary kind of guy, or will you just throw on an old movie, a favorite, or something like that?
I guess I'm a big fan of National Public Radio here, which has a lot of in-depth articles and stuff like that, and so that's what I consume more. The programs from that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, no, that's good. I like it. I just thought I'd ask because we all have something that we do to unwind, and obviously being an author yourself, maybe there's something in particular that you like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one's a big one. Tell us about your zombie apocalypse plan.
Well, as you already mentioned, I live in Florida. So this is something that, when other people talk about zombie apocalypse, they talk about something like in the future that might happen.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas living here in Florida, I kind of think it may have already started, because I mean, here we have just like the weirdest things that happen. So, but here we have to always be kind of prepared for disaster anyway, because we got hurricanes, we got tornadoes, we got alligators, we got, so basically everything we do, we have to be doing already. I mean, pretty much everybody I know, we already have kind of like our little survival kit and everything like that, because you have to be prepared that that because of weather stuff, you might lose, lights and everything. And so, so we're kind of prepared already, we've been ahead of the curve on that one. When it breaks out, we're ready.
No, excellent. We do something like that. Some of the northern Queensland where they do get cyclones and stuff like that, a lot of people there will have what they call their go bag, which is something that they always keep relatively close to the door or to an exit to the house, where they'll just pick it up, and it's got enough things for you to take and that you can live with for a little bit, and important things like photos and stuff like that. So it's always good to be prepared.
We have I don't know, about 100 gallons of water stored, and all kinds of different things. So bring it on.
Excellent.
All right, last question. Elon Musk calls you up and offers you to test drive his new electric time machine. What do you do, and where do you go?
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody, normally when you think about time travel, for some reason, people always think about going to the past. I mean, that's what comes to mind first? You're going to go to the past. And I
Yeah.
always thought, I think the future would be a lot more interesting than the past. But then when you have to decide when to, you kind of don't want to go too far because you don't want it to get, I mean, you don't,
Yeah.
the problem is that you don't know what you're going to find. You know, it's like, you know, if you go 100 years, you know, like, you know, it's just going to be too different. I mean, you know, in 500 years, just out of the question, you know. So, but then if you want to play it safe and just go 20 years, then what's the point? You know, so it's kind of like,
Well, you can get all the lotto numbers and then go back and.
I guess that would be the best thing. You know, the other thing is that, you know, it's if it's a test drive, it's like, you know, it's like, so it means you haven't been tested before. Like, is it like, you sure can return? Is it just, you know, like, that's the thing.
No one said that. No one has said that. And that I've been waiting for someone to say that. It's a test drive.
Right. You know, it's like, yeah, because, you know, especially if I'm going to go back to the past, for some periods, I wouldn't be able to survive there, you know, very much, you know, I guess I would have to go to a period that I'm familiar with enough so I can like be a futurologist and start telling people what's going to happen. And
you'll become a prophet.
Exactly. Be a prophet, yeah, you know, start my own cult and everything. That might be fun.
That's the way. That's the look. You got it all planned out. You'll be fine. Great answers. See, look, I've been waiting for someone to say, "Hold on, maybe I don't want to take that risk because it is a test drive." No one else has said that. Everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
where I want to go.
Are you coming along, or are you going to wait here? You know, it's like.
I love it. Excellent answers. Excellent answers. I love it. Excellent.
All right. What do you say we dive into the reason you are here? Talk about your work and all the books you're doing. Let's kick it off with your wonderfully titled Gorillas with Machine Guns, I must say. Because you just want to tell us what it's about.
Okay. In 1967, I mean, we were talking about the past. I mean, people can imagine what 1967 was like. My father decided to make a trip from the US all the way to Paraguay in South America in a Volkswagen van. And that was obviously, there was no GPS or anything like that, you know, cell phone. And a lot of the parts didn't have like reliable road maps. And it was obviously quite an adventure. And we obviously, my father prepared, you know, well for that. It was my parents and 6 children. You know, I was 8 years old at the time, and we all went. You know, my oldest sister was 18 at the time, and then I had a younger sister than me, who was 5, and then all between, and our French poodle. And we did this 12,000 kilometer journey. It took us 3 months, and it was, as you could imagine, a lot of adventures and a lot of stuff that is just obviously wouldn't happen today, you know. But one of the things that happened was that we avoided going through Colombia because that's where there was like guerrilla warfare going on. And so we circumvented Colombia. We had to circumvent, there's the thing called the Darien Gap, which up until now, there's a you know, North America and South America still aren't connected. There's a 100-kilometer gap that up until now, there's not roads. I mean, back then, you know, it was also. So from the Panama Canal, we got on a boat, but then we went past Colombia and went to Peru so that we could circumvent where there was like the guerrilla warfare going on. But as we were driving through Bolivia, almost making it to Paraguay, it turns out that J.a.Bryden had already left Colombia and was in Bolivia when we were driving through there, you know. But of course, back then, you know, there was no internet, of course, and communications. I mean, even communications anywhere in the world were a lot slower, but, you know, in rural Bolivia in 1967, it was more so. But we started, you know, they were basically going by rumors and everything. And we were stopped at we were stopped by a military checkpoint where we got there, and all the soldiers were pointing rifles at us and everything. And then the officer came and saw my father was an American, and he spoke English. And so they started talking and everything. And that's the thing, that when people, a lot of times, people in Latin America, who speak a little bit of English, they love to practice their English. So when they find somebody that speaks a little bit of English, they love to practice and everything. So I started speaking with my dad in English, even though my dad spoke Spanish also. But he started talking, and then in the middle of the conversation, he warns me and says, you have to watch out for the guerrillas. There's bands of guerrillas in the, they come down, bands of guerrillas with machine guns coming down from the mountains, And I overheard that, and I didn't know what a guerrilla was. So I thought it was a gorilla, like the animal. And I thought to myself, gorillas with machine guns. I mean, not just regular. I mean, a regular gorilla is already scary enough, but bands of gorillas with a machine gun. So it's like that's about as scary as it can get. And so after we left that checkpoint and we were driving along, and me and my sister were talking about that. It's just like, what happens if the gorillas stop us? Like. And so I asked my dad, I said, Dad, are there gorillas out here? And he says, well, son, nothing you need to worry about. I said, oh, okay. So I didn't worry about it anymore. I mean, we still kept looking for the gorillas, but as an 8-year-old kid, I was no longer worried. My dad said, oh, nothing I had to worry about, but I still kept looking, trying to find the gorillas with machine guns, like.
It's that's what I love about the title of the book, because it is. You said you were 8 at the time, yeah?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's such a kid thing to think. Like, if I'd heard the same thing when I was 8 years old, I'd be looking for, big, burly gorillas strapped to the gat with machine guns. I mean, I love that. I love how you kept that, in the title of the book, because, I honestly, when Jamie told me about the interview and I got the book on Kindle Unlimited, I'm like, is this like a sci-fi or something? And as you read through it, you explain. It's a brilliant way to title the book. I love it. Yeah. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and one thing that I thought was really cool that I did in that book was I wrote it. There was 8 of us in the van, and I wrote it from each point of view. So each chapter will be from one point of view. So I have, my dad, him telling the story when he's talking to the officer, and then I have my version talking to my sister, and so you see each person's point of view throughout the thing, and and so it's like you get the perspective of, from a 5-year-old kid up until to my dad's point of view, everybody telling the story, as they saw it. And because after, as I was writing it and I was researching and talking it with my siblings, there's 6 of us. Each one of us has a different version on on the story. It's like as if there were 6 different journeys. I mean,
I think that's a good way. You don't see many books like that. It was a really good way to write the book, because I noticed that when I started reading it. You've got essentially sections of the chapters. We could be talking with your sister or your brother or your father, and then I think that's a really good way to write it, because you can see how different the perspectives are from your father and yours, from one end of the spectrum to the other. I think that's a really good way to set it all out. And I was going to ask, my next question was, did you, start to consult with siblings recently just before you wrote it, just to see what they remembered and things like that?
Correct. Yeah, I exactly. I got their, I tried to get their stories as much, have them tell their version and everything. And then I would tell it how how they told it to me. And it was interesting how they were so, it was so different. It was like totally like my 2 older sister, one of them was, one was 17, one was 18. So they're, practically the same age. And one of them thought it was so fun and so exciting and having so much fun. And the other one was like, oh, what a drag. Here we are stuck with my little siblings and everything like that. When is this going to be over? It's like, and everything. And it's like, it was, they just remembered it in some different points. The facts are the same, but the perspective is just totally different.
Yeah, I really like that about it. Excellent. So obviously you've mentioned down, obviously the research with your siblings. What other kind of research did you have to do for this book? I mean, obviously it was an event that occurred quite a while ago, 30, 35, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
What other kinds of research did you have to do?
Basically, I started researching a lot about, because there's so many things, like especially like the details that I wanted to include that I forgot. And for example, like about the Panama Canal, I did a lot of research. I mean, that's just a fascinating, and I had to cut so much out because it was just, I didn't want to have a treatise on the Panama Canal, but it was just so fascinating to be able to study about all the, I wanted to include about the locks and how it's built and everything like that. And the thing about the foods that we encountered, and I was researching all the different locations and the different places that we stopped at. And it was something really interesting. There was a picture that I had that with one of the men that there was a man that we encountered on the boat who was hitting on my older sister. but he it was very interesting. He Jorge, and he was, because my sister was very cute and everything. He was, trying to woo her, but he was on the boat with us when we were on the boat for, like, I'm not sure how long, but at least a week. And he lived in Bolivia. And so, but when we got there, we went by another path, I'm not sure, but he says, hey, when you come through my town in Bolivia, stop by to see me. I'm gonna, receive you guys and everything. And so we did. We stopped by the thing, but I couldn't remember. Nobody could remember exactly what town it was. And my sister remembered it as being one town. And so I wrote the book writing that it was in Cochabamba, because that's what it seemed to me like. I was figuring out when I was trying to retrace our route, it made sense that we would have gone through Cochabamba. And so it sounded like there was, from what I heard, it was Cochabamba. And once here in Orlando, which of course is a magnet for tourism, I ran into, I was speaking with some tourists from Bolivia, and I asked them, hey, where are you guys from? And I was hoping he'd say Cochabamba, and he said, oh, I'm from Sucre. And I said, oh, okay. I said, people in Cochabamba? But I was trying to see if by chance I could find out about this guy that, we had this picture was 50, from 50 years back. And he goes, well, yeah, I know some people there. Why? And I says, well, I got this photo here, and I'm trying to identify the people here. And when he looked at it right away, he says, no, that's not Cochabamba, that's Sucre. That's where I'm from. He says, I know where this is. Look at that Indian. Look at his clothes. This tribe is only right there in Sucre. There's no other place where they wear this. And right there, and in the background, that's the statue. That's Jose Martin. And he told me the whole, he described the whole plaza. So, whoa. And I said, wow. And I said, I wonder if you can, we can find out who this guy here is. He starts looking at the guy, says, this guy looks familiar. I said, now, of course, he looks familiar, but this picture's from 50 years ago. And the guy was about 50 himself, so obviously, he didn't. And he says, well, let me research it for you. And he starts researching it. He sends, I give him a copy of the picture, and he sends it by WhatsApp to his connections over there. And within 2 hours, he calls me and he says, I know who that guy is. He's a cousin of mine. He's a cousin of my wife's. He says, it's like, and his name is his name, it says, and everything. And I go, wow. And they told me the whole story of the plaza and everything. He sent me another picture taken from that same spot. I asked him when he went back to Bolivia to take a picture from that same spot, and he sent me the picture. know, because the statue that was in the background is still there, the bench is still there. The only difference is like the trees are a lot bigger and everything.
Mm.
And I got in touch with the guy from this picture, you know, and to confirm that it was really him. When I started talking to him, I told him who I was and everything. He goes, "Oh yeah, yeah, I remember you. What about your sister? Where's your sister?"
I love it.
I said, "Okay, yeah, this is the same guy, all right."
That's awesome. Like it's really interesting when things like that happen, you know, just out of pure coincidence.
Yeah.
And you're able to connect that and put that into your book as well. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So as a 8-year-old traveling on a 3-month, you know, journey that I can't imagine anyone else at, you know, that age doing, what was your most vivid memory of the whole thing?
Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu. Even though I was a child, you know, and everything, it was like, and the thing is that back in 1967, Machu Picchu wasn't well known. It wasn't it was very remote. It was, I mean, today, you know, they have to limit the amount of people that go up there. Whereas when we went up there, we were the only ones there, you know, and there was like,
Yeah,
there wasn't even a guide. I mean, like there was a guide that took us, you know, up to there, but then, you know, there wasn't, I mean, it was like just totally different, you know, and I remember just, we were kids back then. I mean, and this is actually, I mean, not good that, I mean, we were able to climb on all these, you know, archaeological pieces and everything like that. We were, I mean, for us, for kids, it was just a playground, you know, it was like a huge place. There's this place called, I mean, so many places like that. We were just playing on top of these sites as if, I mean, now I look at the pictures, I kind of cringe. I said, "Oh man, it's like, you know, this shouldn't be allowed. We shouldn't have been doing that."
yeah.
You know, but that was of all the places, that was just, I think for all of us, it just really, I mean, it just really stuck, you know. And that's a place that I think that should be on everybody's bucket list, along with the Grand Canyon and everything. Machu Picchu, I think, is really a place that's just, it's out of the ordinary.
Oh, that's good. No, it's beautiful, beautiful country over there. Now, on that, have you been back since?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
My sons have all been there. You know, they all, you
I
know,
love it.
following in the footsteps. They all been there, but no, I haven't been back there.
Oh, well, maybe once COVID's over and things, you know, settle down a little bit, it does make it a bit difficult. But yeah, I just thought I'd ask that. Obviously, you know, it was a great journey for you to experience when you were so young. But tell us about the contrasts of environment, you know, between the desert and the jungle, and obviously all the different kind of environment that you would have gone through on that trip.
Yeah, and it was like I mean, we went you know, the gamut, because we left in the summer in North America, and when we went through, you know, northern Mexico and everything, it was in the summer, and then we got there, was still winter in, you know, in South America, and when we were going through the Andes and everything. So it was, you know, and that's the thing, that my parents, they had to plan everything. It was my mother that actually did all the planning to be able to pack everything, because we didn't know what would be available along the route. So she tried to plan that we would buy. I mean, of course, we were going to be buying food and water and stuff, but everything else, you know, we took, you know, like tents and cots and air mattresses, and just everything, you know, to be able to be able to make sure that we did the whole trip, you know, without any issues. It was, but the main thing that sticks in everybody's mind, one of the things that all our siblings remember, is how well we were received and treated by everybody everywhere we went, you know. It's like, of course, we were a curiosity. I mean, when people, you know, like sometimes we were going through this small village and everybody would run out and they were like, wanted to see us, you know, wanted to touch us and see what we're all about, you know, and everything. But it was like, and it was just the how well, I mean, you know, people were saying, hey, come over to my house and visit me. Let's go have lunch. And we said, well, actually, we got a trip. We got, we're on a journey. We're on a mission here.
Wow.
But people, were wanting for us to stay, and everything, and we were just so well received by in every single country that we went through. It was like I said, because especially in the more remote areas, I guess the more remote, the more people are pleased to have, visitors.
Oh, that would have been really good. It's always nice when you're going somewhere where you've never been before, and you can make those memories and meet people. And I mean, I think the best thing about trips like these are not only the beautiful, landmarks and places you visit, but the people that you meet and you get to know. And I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Yes, and it was just such a wide array of characters that we met, and then that helped us out, in different points of the journey, that made it possible, because there were things, problems that arose, and that made it hard. But yeah, we received a lot of help from a lot of people, and it was great. It was quite a memorable trip.
No, it would have been. Oh,
Well, I'm sure I could talk about it all day, but why don't we give the listeners a little bit of preview into what is about to be released? You've got another book called 7 Shades of Gold.
Yes. Go ahead. You gonna say something about it? Yeah.
No.
The 7 Shades of Gold. It's a memoir that's basically just concentrated on one day in it was 20 years ago. No, 30 years ago. Let me see. Yeah, 30 years ago. I lose track. My family still has a property in Paraguay. And right about then, there was started to be stealth intruders who would come in, and basically they would plant marijuana on people's land. I mean, it wasn't just on our land, but it was in other places and everything. And then there's basically they would do it on other people's property, so they could evade any kind of responsibility and everything. And there was pressure from the Paraguayan government, because basically if you own a property and there's marijuana growing on your property, then that makes you the marijuana grower. And it was very, it was a serious offense, that was,
Yeah.
And so we had to basically, we were caught between the people who were growing the marijuana and the Paraguayan government, which was under pressure from the U.S. government because of the international world drug on wars that felt that it could eliminate all the drugs. And so the Paraguayan government was caught between these forces, and so they put the pressure on the property owners. And so basically we were caught there in the middle, and I started to use the title. I was calling myself an involunteer, because basically I didn't volunteer for that, but we were kind of like, we were forced to volunteer to take part in this. And basically we had to, along with this special task force, we had to conduct raids on our property, against these marijuana fields. And so this just tells the story of one day. It was just what happened on that one day. And it shows, it shows you the human side of, I mean, there were so many forces involved. There was the agents, there was the informants, the drug informants. There was the people planning it, who were just some poor, I mean, there are large, vicious, mean cartels, but the people that are out there actually in the field planning, they're just some smugs, who are trying to make a living,
Mhm.
and it was just a no-win situation for everybody involved. Just sad all around. And one of the when I was writing it, there's times that I was thinking how to write it and everything, and my son asked one of my sons asked me, what part was the most memorable part of that day? And I said, it sounds silly, but the most memorable part of that day was one of the drug informants eating the food that he found from that he took from the guys that were planting the marijuana there, and he was eating there, and he was eating with and there was a guy there in handcuffs right there, and everything, and the guy's eating, he's eating this food, and I says, man, this tastes horrible. I said, who made it? He says, oh, I did. He says, well, why didn't you put some spice in it? Come on, and then, it's like, what's wrong with you? And he starts to just have this humane conversation about spices and food and how to cook food, and then family and everything, and then shares the beans with the guy in there so that he won't be hungry. And it was just like a few minutes before, or maybe an hour earlier, the guy had actually shot at us, shot at this guy's brother and missed, fortunately. But like just an hour earlier, they were shots fired, and this guy, he could have been killed, or he could have killed one of us. And now, they're just eating there and talking about food and recipes and everything. And it's like, it was just kind of, I mean, it wasn't what I expected,
No, not at all. It's kind of like, you could really tell it's just business. You know what I mean? Like, when
exactly. I don't know hard feelings. It's just
yeah, it's dinner time. You can sit down and have a chat, and then maybe after dinner we'll try and shoot you again. So you never know.
Yeah.
So yeah. So when is that coming out, Joe?
March 26th.
Okay, so not too long, because I definitely want to grab that one. That's
great.
I like those kind of stories, so I want to have a read of that. So March 26th, and where can people get it? Obviously on Amazon, but can
Amazon,
that and your other books?
Yeah, and when I launch it, I'm gonna have a little launch event, and when I do launch it, then your listeners and everything, they'll be able to get a free Kindle version of the book.
Oh, cool.
It'll be also on Kindle Unlimited, so people that have the Kindle Unlimited to be able to read it. But if they don't, they can download the free Kindle version on that day, on March 26th. I'll be sharing with you guys a link, for it'll be launch to be done via Zoom, just like this meeting right here.
Excellent. No, I'm really, really looking forward to that. I'll be definitely checking that out. And are you on social media, Joe? Like what?
Yes.
Where can people find you on social media?
And the best place is my website is thewordweaver.me, and then .me at the end. So thewordweaver.me. So my last name is Weaver, and so I just kind of adopted that. I thought it'd be a good connection of the word Weaver, and
I like it. I like it. We'll put a link to that in the show notes and on the video as well, so that our listeners can jump on and support you as best they can. And no, I'm really looking forward to checking out the 7 Shades of Gold once it comes out on 26th of March.
And just before we wrap up, do you want to give some advice to some of our listeners that may be thinking about writing their own memoirs?
Do it. That's my main advice, is do it. I mean, so many people talk about, one of these days I'm going to write a book, everything. And people need to do it. I mean, everybody has a story inside of them. Everybody, maybe you're going to do a 12,000 kilometer journey, but everybody has had, have had experiences that are unique, that are definitely going to be of interest to to their descendants. That they're going to have your kids, your grandchildren. They're going to want to know what your daily life was. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it doesn't appear to be something exciting. I mean, just think if you had. I mean, very few. Some people do, but very few of us have like an accounting of what our great grandparents, their daily life was like. Like if your great grandparent had written a memoir, it wouldn't matter if it just told you how he made his breakfast and what his day at work was like, what he was doing and everything. It would have been fascinating reading to have that, and there's so many stories that we don't appreciate that are lost forever. And people just have to do it like this the book about the gorillas with machine guns. As I was growing up, none of us wrote down any of the stories. We have no records of anything, and we didn't see the need for it because everybody knew the story already. There's no need, and so that's the way people feel. Like if with your daily life says, well, everybody already knows that. Everybody knows that. It's like, what's the point? But 50 years from now, people aren't going to know it. We're going to be dead. And a lot of the stories are going to be died, just like when our parents, I don't know if your parents are alive. I mean, my parents are dead. So many stories died with them because I didn't ask them about it. I mean, fortunately, a lot of the stories I did ask about, or they told without being prompted sometimes. But there's so many more that we don't know, and there's so many things that I found out about. Like, for example, my father's activity in the war. But my father was in World War II. And a lot of it I found out, by reading accounts from people that were there with him.
Oh, wow.
That he didn't, that he never talked about. And I don't know why I never asked him. I was interested. Every once in a while, if he did mention something, I was very interested in hearing about it. But for some reason, it never occurred to me to just actually ask him, hey, tell me about it,
Yeah.
And we don't do that. So if you do have older relatives, if you're lucky to have them, ask them about it. Ask them about their experiences, and record it and take it down and ask them, like I said, let them talk about the mundane. It doesn't have to be heroic. It can be just, your everyday slog. I would recommend everybody do that. And I have some tips on how to start, and like I said, your listeners, if they check out my website, thewordweaver.me, there are some tips there, and they can reach out to me. They can email me, and I'll be glad to give them some tips, help them. People that what I've been doing a lot lately is I've been helping people that are already writing. So people that are writing their memoirs, but are having trouble completing it or making it interesting. That's the thing, that the memoirs, they have to be written in an interesting manner. You don't want it to be just boring, and there's you just need to employ the same techniques of good storytelling, to be able to tell the story in a fun and interesting way. So that's what that's the main thing that I hope that the takeaway from this interview for your listeners are to start writing their memoirs, start interviewing their older relatives, start writing down their stories. And if they don't know how to start, or if they already started and they need help, progressing more, then just reach out to me and I'll be glad to talk to them.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure some of our listeners will take you up on that advice, but thank you so much, Joe, for joining us for this story chat. And we'll definitely, hopefully maybe get you on a little bit after the new book's released and talk about that as well.
Okay, well, great. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
No, you're very welcome. Thanks for taking the time out of your Friday night to come and have a chat with us.
All right.
All right. And for all you listeners out there, like, subscribe, share. You can support us on buymeacoffee.com/STTATF. And we'll catch you next time.
See you next time.